This is a jewel to start the day off, isn't it? And then the grapple. Man, that's good wood right there. That is quite the tree. Quite the tree. Some size to it, pretty uniform. And we're going to go up here and do a little trimming on it. When it fell, the top it didn't hang up, but the top was big enough that it just kind of cushioned it up, so I pulled it down to where I could get to it a little safer. That way I can get these limbs worked up and try to get all the footage I can out of it. Like I said, I'll take that thing clear up there to that crotch up there, but I'll round all these limbs. I'll make that log round. I'll cut all the limbs off here, and when I get it out on the deck, I'll round it, because then I can use a skid steer to get it up off the ground, and it works a little better doing it like that. We've just got a few more trees to cut on this job, and we'll have it wrapped up. The last tree's a big tree we've got to pull, and we're saving it for last, and we'll go look at it here in just a little bit. But I've got this guy here. I think I've got two up here at the top of the hill, and that'll have them wrapped up. That'll have this job in the books. So, done deal, done deal. Good tree. Well, let's fire up that old 661. See if it'll cut. I need to throw my 880 back on the skidder. I always like to buck with my 880 because I like to use a 404 chain to buck with. And I've heard guys say that they can run 404 on these 661s. Now, does steel, this is a serious question here, does steel make a bar, like a 404 bar that'll fit the 661? Because the bars on our 880s will not fit the 661s. And I'd be very interested. I talked to a gentleman a while back, he was in Canada, and I'd be very interested. Do you have to run like an aftermarket bar, like a Cannon bar or a Sugi? Or can you get the steel bars that will run 404 chain for these little 661s? If anybody knows anything on it, let me know. Give me a comment, or message me, hit me up on Facebook, whatever it takes. I'd like to know, seriously. I do like the 404 chain a lot better than this 3/8. A lot better. But let's get this worked up real quick so we can get it out on the deck. We got the last tree behind us. Coming out with it. Just cut it down. We had to push on it when we cut it. Dad cut. Put a small notch in it. I stated before in the video, we don't really notch walnut, but every now and then we have to put a notch in them to try to swing them away from obstructions and obstacles, like that fence back there. See, this road goes around the perimeter of the property, this little trail. So, the reason I didn't cut that tree yesterday is I was scared that I was going to hit the fence when I cut it. I knew I'd have to have Dad's help to cut and push both. So, we tackled it this morning. That's the last tree. The only thing we got left is the old big boy up here. We'll drive by him in a minute. Dad's in front of me. Property line fence right there. Some good oak out here. Real good red oak. Got some size to it. That's pretty much what a log timber looks like when we get done with it. We don't clear cut. We leave a lot of residual trees. Now this job here, we just cut the walnut. Now, it's not that I don't ever cut oak. We do it from time to time, and I bought a good job of red oak last week. We're going to cut here in a week or so. But we try to honor our clients' wishes, what they want to do. This was just strictly a finishing job. Sending out some of these walnuts. You just can't imagine how many walnut trees are in that patch of timber. And there's a lot of trees we left that we would normally cut, but we're leaving them. They're growing good. Red oak there, that's a beast. Good post oak. Very picturesque. amazing job on that. And I love doing work like that. Me and Brandon both do. The thing about doing things like that is somebody's going to be willing to spend some money, because there's a lot of time involved in going through there with a skid steer and taking out the underbrush. And more or less just kind of turn into a park. Concentration of trees right there. There's some good trees there with less standing. Pretty good trees. And what we're going to do, we're going to go back through here with the skid steer, and we'll put on the grapple in the bucket, and we'll open these roads up real good. I want to make sure they're really clear and open now. They were before we started using them. But I want to go through and really open them up, take out every kind of obstructions out of the roads. Good walnut there. Bunch of good walnut right here. It's growing good too. And we're going to make a few new roads, trails. They've come down here and they've retired from the city. And this is just purely a piece of recreational property for them, something for them to enjoy. And we want them to be able to enjoy it to the fullest. Trees. Easy. Here's Old Big. It's probably going to be a little bad in the butt. You can see I was prodding around there this morning. That stump's really swollen and flared on it. There's a good chance that'll be a little bad in the butt. That's a big tree. Big tree. It leans hard out over the fence. It'll be hard to bring down. We'll have to get up in it high with a cable. Run the skidder straight south. Bore into it. Leave the backside hold. Try to pull it open. That is really a good tree, and it's a big tree. And its health's probably starting to go downhill. I showed you there in the base of the tree. Walk down here to the log deck now. Right there's the highway. That's the same highway I live on. Right after the deck area. Tall timber. We'll make a big swing here, that way we can lay it in there straight. Marked up and bucked up. This is one of the big reasons I pulled the trigger on this skid steer. Of course, I'm packing along a multiple cut veneer log here. I'll shift gears as we cross the road. I got the window open too. And the radio on. And the heated seat on. But never mind that. I like bucking these logs to length, and I like rowing them up, and I'm all about presentation. I love doing a good presentation of logs. It makes things move so much quicker when it comes to sale day. Everything about it, I like the showmanship of it. I like the presentation, the prestige. Let's go ahead and oh boy. Now granted, I'm trying to do this one-handed. I'm usually using two to do this. There we go. Back up. And I like to leave I like to have the best side of the log facing up too. good set of logs. Right here by the road where people can see it. And the good thing about that is we get a lot of inquiries like that. People see us working, they'll stop in and talk to us a lot of times. They'll ask us about, you know, hey, we got some timber, would you come look at it? Well, sure, we'll come look at it. And I've got a lot of good jobs of timber just like that, by doing things like that. And I like all of our work being out in the open. And in a lot of ways, a lot of reasons I get the business I do, me and Dad stay busy, is because people can see our work, whether it be on social media, driving by, just whatever we do. We're very out in the open about everything. And people like that. People like knowing that, hey, like, there's no secrets here, you know, there's nothing hidden. I mean, I think that's great for just the logging business professional, because there's so many stories about shady loggers. Well, we're trying to break that stereotype, you know, by doing everything out in the open. We try to break that down to where, hey, you know what we're doing at all times. You can see what we're doing, see where we're working, see how we do it. Man, that's what I like about it right there. I'm gonna have to go back to using two hands. Hold on. Kind of walk over the pile here. We got 3 rows. 3 rows of pretty good logs, of course. Big tabletop log there. It had over, I think, like 1,100 and some feet in it all together. Of course, this big boy here, that's a multiple cut veneer log. It's got a little sweep in it up there at the top. Like I said, we're going to leave it a multiple cut though. And there's a lot of good logs in this pile. Now, Dan Whiteford, he left a comment yesterday, and Dan asked, I believe it had to do with how we figure volumes and logs, and how they figure pricing. Let's go over that real quick, Dan. I mean, a lot of guys that watch this are loggers, and you guys know, but Dan, what we do, we work off the Doyle log rule here in Southwest Missouri. All the walnut we sell is on the Doyle scale. Pretty much all the logs I sell in general is on the Doyle scale. And if you go to southeastern Missouri, they actually use the international down there, and I've sold logs on international scale, and for smaller logs it works great, but when you get into bigger logs it kind of starts going the other way. But what we do here, Dan, is we've got a ruler, a little 4-foot ruler, and we'll measure these logs out, and there's a formula. You go by the length and the diameter, and that spits out your volume on the Doyle log rule. Let's take, for instance, a log it's 10 foot long, 24 inches. That log will have 250 board feet in it. And to answer your question about the pricing, it all has to do with how the log is. If it's clean, you know, of course, clean logs they're gonna bring more money. You know, then it goes on size, length. There's a lot of pricing factors when it comes to walnut logs. Sap. Then we get into peck. Like some of these logs have got peck in them. Here's a good example of peck or worm, what we call. You can see right in here, this is what they call peck or worm. And that'll affect the price of your wood. And a lot of people want to argue. Usually, see that one right there, it's got a lot of peck in it too. And what a lot of people do, more times than not, landowners, when you try to explain, they want to talk about, well, that just adds more figure. Well, yeah, I guess it does, but that's really not what's going on here at all. So, but that just kind of, hope that helps answer your question a little bit, Dan. And what we'll do, I'll scale these logs before I sell them, because I've got a pretty good idea of what volume's here, just off an estimation. But I'm real crazy about numbers and figures and keeping records and notes. Like I like to keep track of how much volume of timber we cut monthly, weekly, yearly. And what I'll do is I'll actually get all these figures down, because I know how many trees we've cut. And I like to know the average, what the trees average footage-wise per tree. Of course, it'll all go down when we break it down to the cell too. But I want to know my volume. I always like, and that's part of the reason, if you guys use the Timber Tracker app and the new features, part of the reason is because when I sell logs, I like to know my footage, my volume, and I like to be 5% plus or minus from whoever buys my logs. And I say 5% plus or minus because, you know, you're not always going to agree on some of these logs. What some guy might call a 21, you might call a 20, or vice versa. So, like I said, I like to be 5% plus or minus on my footage when I scale logs, and when I scale and sell logs. So, whoever buys these logs, I will want them to be 5% plus or minus of where my volume is that I've come up with. So that old boy there, he's one of the ones that didn't cut real good. So that was kind of a lot of the reason behind the Timber Tracker app. And I use the app on almost every sale because, like I said, I can keep records of it. It's a good log there. Good log. Good stuff. Good set of logs. So that's just a little bit about how we do things. Like I said, I hope that kind of halfway answers your question, Dan, what you're looking to get there. And if you download that app and if you play around with logs, we've got 2 scales on the app right now. We've got the Doyle and the International Log Rule. Well, we're adding the decimal C log rule, and there's I was asked to add a Canadian log rule too. I can't remember what it was, Ontario something maybe. So we're adding 2 new log rules when the updates come out. So you'll be able to pick different log rules. And you can scale them in Doyle and switch it to International, and the footage will change, and you can kind of see comparisons. Now, what I've noticed, your International log rule works real great on small logs. It'll give you more volume, but it starts to go the other way on bigger diameter logs. Where Doyle, it's just the opposite. Doyle's kind of in the sawmill's favor because if you're cutting logs, if your logs are, let's say 12 to 16 inches, I figure there's 30% overrun in the mill's favor. Overrun is, say the log measures 50 board feet. Well, you'll get 30% more once you saw it out, and maybe more depending if you're using a thin kerf band. So that's just a little bit about logs. And trust me, I'm no sawmiller. I'm no expert on sawmilling logs. I'm not. We used to have a sawmill years ago, and I knew real quick I didn't want nothing to do with that end of things. That's just, and I know people, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's fine. Like I said, I don't know everything, but those are just some of the things I've learned about milling and the overrun and the footage. So that's like I said, overall it's a good set of logs, especially for anymore in this part of the world. It's a good set for the volume, and it's a good set for the quality of logs that are in there. And there's a few of them I need to trim up just a little bit, just to kind of fine tune them. Because I'm real particular about things, kind of meticulous in a way when it comes to my logs. That's a good layout right there. Teamwork makes the dream work, right there. That's my team. That's my team. Oh boy. Ooh. Back up. I don't think I can make that turn out there and miss the little peach trees. I don't want to run over the peach trees. I think they're wanting to get rid of some of them because there's a bunch of them. They don't want an orchard, but I still don't want to run over their little peach trees. Pretty proud of that little set of logs. After 20 years, I'm just happy to have them. I'm tickled to death that we got those logs after 20 years of waiting. That's it today, guys. That's all I got time to do today, which we just got that one tree left to get. But I've got it's about lunchtime, so I'm gonna eat a bite, then I gotta get going north. I've got timber to look at up around Kansas City, actually the Independence, Missouri area. So, and I've actually got 2 stops to make up there today, so I need to get going because I got a lot of driving to do. I got a couple of decent little tracts of timber to look at, and I'd say it's gonna be a late night. It'll be, I'm guessing, probably 7:30 before I get back to the house. And just one of those nights. Tomorrow I've got timber to look at all day too, so hopefully we can, of course it's the opening weekend of deer season here in Missouri, which I'm not a deer hunter, just doesn't interest me a whole lot. I think, Dad used to do a lot of hunting when I was growing up, but he don't do so much anymore, but he still likes to hunt, and the deer hunting just never caught to me. I used to go every now and then, but I'm not a hunter, man. I just hunt timber. That's about all I hunt. That's all I want to hunt is timber. I used to like to coon hunt a lot. Me and Dad used to coon hunt all the time and trap, and I used to love to trap. Just don't get to do that stuff anymore. Just don't have time. Don't have time to do it. So, gonna get off here. Guys, thanks a lot as always for hanging out with us today, following along. I'm sure we'll get something up and going tomorrow. I don't know what. It might be kind of an uneventful day. I got a lot of driving the next couple of days, I know that. So, think that's all I got off the top of my head. Check us out on all of our social media outlets: Instagram, Facebook, Eternal Logging LLC. Be sure to check out Logger Threads for all the clothing, and Timber Tracker for that awesome app and the awesome website that should someday be done. I don't know. Anyway, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.